how incredible it is that we can solve problems we've never seen before.
Yeah, like walk into a room, there's some weird contraption, and we can kind of figure it out.
Right. You're not going to see like an ant doing that. I mean, contrast that with, I don't know, a simple organism, right?
They're kind of stuck with their instinct.
Yeah, they're just reacting. But we can like play with ideas in our heads, run through
Like a
scenarios.
little mental model of what happens if I do this.
Exactly. And usually get to some kind of solution.
Yeah.
That internal process, that's what we call thinking.
It's really at the core of what makes us intelligent.
Totally. And today, we're going to dive into some AI research that's, well, it's starting to show glimmers of this very thing.
Glimmers of actual thinking in AI. That's pretty exciting stuff.
Oh, it's super exciting and maybe even a little unnerving. But first, before we get too deep, quick intros. I'm Host Name, your host for this deep dive into the world of AI and what's really going on at the cutting edge.
And I'm Expert Name. Happy to be here to help unpack this wild research. I've been knee-deep in these papers, and let me tell you, it's a mind-bending ride.
It really is. So to set the stage, we're talking about something called zero-shot generalization.
Which is a mouthful, but basically it means, can an AI solve a problem it's never specifically been trained on?
Like truly novel, no prior experience with that exact task.
Right, like imagine a self-driving car encountering a situation it's never seen before, like I don't know, a flock of geese crossing the road during a hailstorm.
Wild stuff. And it has to figure out what to do on the fly. That's zero-shot generalization.
And it's one of the biggest challenges in AI right now. Because typically AI is great at what it's trained for, but throw something new at it.
And it falls apart.
Exactly.
Okay.
But if we can crack this, the potential is huge. It's like
Yeah.
the holy grail of AI research in a lot of ways.
Okay, so that's the backdrop. Now, the paper that really caught our eye, it comes from the Obelisk team at the Astera Institute, and it landed on ArcSiv on March 25th, 2025. Title is, Thinking Agents for Zero-Shot Generalization to Qualitatively Novel Tasks.
So right off the bat, they're not messing around. They're going for it, trying to create AI that can actually think.
And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. How did these researchers design an environment and an AI agent that can not only solve brand new problems, but actually exhibit something resembling thinking?
And a key part of this is how they ensured the novelty of the tasks they were testing. It all comes down to how they built the environment in a really clever way. So buckle up, folks, because we're about to go deep.
All right, let's start with the basics. What do they even mean by thinking when they're talking about AI? Because it's not like, our human thoughts.
Right. It's not like the AI is suddenly having existential crises or anything. They're very specific about this.
Right.
They define thinking, and they actually put it in quotes in the paper as the deliberate internal generation, evaluation, and selection of actions or sequences of actions.
Okay, so it's about, like, the AI exploring different options in its, well, I guess it's kind of like a mind in a way.
Yeah, kind of. It's like the AI is running simulations internally, seeing what might happen if it takes different actions, and then choosing the best one. It's not just blindly following a pre-programmed set of rules.
And they connect this to some work by Berridge on, like, the flexibility of internal processing. So it's not just about reflexes, it's about actively trying things out in its head.
Right. And this is really different from a lot of other approaches in machine learning. Like sometimes we just train AI to have certain behaviors baked in, almost like instinct.
Yeah, or what they call on-task learning, where the AI learns from just a few examples, but still within a pretty narrow task.
Right. That's like few shot or meta learning. And then there's the approach of just giving the AI instructions in plain language. But this research, it's going for something much deeper, like actual internal deliberation.
And that brings us to another important distinction they make: quantitative versus qualitative generalization. We see AI getting better at existing tasks all the time.
Like playing a game at a higher difficulty or recognizing more types of objects, that's quantitative. More of the same, just better.
But qualitative generalization, that's about solving fundamentally different types of problems, ones the AI hasn't even seen the ingredients for before.
Exactly. And that's what this research is aiming for. It's a much tougher nut to crack.
So how did they actually make sure the tasks were truly novel? Like, how do you guarantee that the AI has never seen anything like it before?
This is where their environmental design comes in. It's really clever. They realize that most simulated environments, like the ones we use to train AI, they're built from a set of, like, building blocks. They actually use the example of the game Crafter in the paper.
Oh yeah, Crafter, that's a good one. You've got your blocks, your tools, your different creatures running around.
Right. So their idea was, what if we withhold a specific combination of these elements during training? The AI sees all the individual pieces, and it even sees them interact in pairs. But that one crucial combination, it's never exposed to it.
So it's kind of like, you give a kid all the different Lego pieces, but you never let them see a specific model built with those pieces.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And then when you give them a challenge that requires that specific combination, it's truly novel. They've got to figure it out from scratch.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how this works. They use a simplified environment for their experiments. A grid world. What kinds of elements did they have in this world?
All right, so imagine a grid, right? And on this grid, you've got different types of blocks. You've got your basic stone blocks, which are immovable. Then there are pickable blocks, which the agent can pick up and carry around.
Okay, standard stuff so far. What else?
Then they've got these killer blocks. You can pick them up, but they're single use. You can use them to destroy other blocks except for stone, or even other agents.
Ooh, that's interesting. So, like, a powerful weapon, but you only get one shot.
Precisely. Then you've got diggable blocks. You can't pick these up, but they can be destroyed by a killer block.
Okay, so that adds another layer of strategy. You might need to clear a path or something.
Exactly. And then, of course, no game world is complete without your non-player characters, your mobs. They've got zombies, which are bad news. They chase the agent and try to harm it.
Classic zombies. Always got to watch out for those.
Then there are cows, which just kind of wander around randomly. If the agent kills a cow, it gets a reward, like maybe it gets some food or something.
So the cows are a temptation,
Yeah.
a quick reward, but maybe not the best long-term strategy.
Right. And then to shake things up, they've got these angels. Angels are good guys. They roam around and kill zombies on contact.
Ah, so they're like the zombie killing squad, but they don't really interact with the agent directly, right?
Not directly, no. So you've got all these elements with their own behaviors and interactions. And during training, the AI gets to see all of these individual elements and even how some pairs interact. It might see a killer block destroy a regular block or an angel take out a zombie. But that one crucial combination, the one that involves all the pieces together in a specific way, that's held back.
Okay, so we've got our environment, and we've got this clever way of guaranteeing novelty. Now, how do you train an AI to actually think in this world? What does the agent look like?
So the agent itself is a recurrent neural network, which means it has a sort of memory. It can remember what happened in the past, which is crucial for this whole simulation thing.
It needs to keep track of what it's tried, what worked, what didn't.
Exactly. And it also has a separate world model. This is like the AI's internal representation of how the world works. It takes in what the AI sees and tries to predict what will happen next based on different actions.
So it's like the AI is constantly running these little what-if scenarios in its head.
Yeah, pretty much. And they train this world model separately from the main agent, but it was trained on the same basic distribution of tasks, so it also never saw that withheld combination.
Okay, that makes sense. So walk us through a training episode. How does this thinking process actually get incorporated?
So each episode starts with the agent just observing the environment, taking it all in. Then there's a fixed period of thinking, and during this time, the agent isn't actually interacting with the real world.
It's all happening internally, like it's off in its own little virtual reality world.
Exactly. And then, after this thinking period, it gets a single trial in the real environment. 30 steps to try and achieve its goal. So it's not just reacting to what it sees. It has time to plan, to strategize.
Okay, that's fascinating. And what happens during this thinking period? How do they make sure it's actually, thinking and not just like spacing out?
Right, good question. So during this thinking time, the agent runs through 3 simulated trials, all starting from that initial observation of the real environment.
So it's like it's taking that snapshot of the world and then replaying it 3 times in its head, trying different things each time.
Exactly. And it uses its world model, or actually during training, it can use the actual environment simulator to see what would happen if it takes different actions.
Ah, so it can learn from its mistakes in these simulations without actually having to suffer the consequences in the real world.
Right. And the agent's internal state, it's like its memory, it carries over between these simulated trials so it can learn and refine its approach.
That's clever. So it's not just starting from scratch each time, it's building on what it's learned.
And to make sure the agent is actually developing useful planning abilities, they use this cool trick. They would generate new tasks all the time, and then they would select which ones to keep based on how much the agent improved after thinking.
So if a task was too easy and the agent could solve it without thinking, they would toss it out.
Right. And if a task was too hard and the agent couldn't make any progress even after thinking, they'd chuck that out too. They wanted tasks that were right on the edge of the agent's abilities.
The Goldilocks zone of AI training.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where thinking actually makes a difference.
All right, so we've got our environment, we've got our agent, we've got this clever training process. Now let's get to the good stuff. The novel test task. The one that uses that specific combination that was withheld during training. Paint us a picture. What's this task look like?
All right, picture this. You've got an open area, and there are two rooms, enclosed by walls of undiggable stone. But each room has a single diggable block acting as a door.
Okay, so you can't just walk into these rooms. You've got to do some demolition work.
Right. And in the open area, there's just one killer block lying around. That single-use weapon we talked about.
Uh-oh. Sounds like resources are scarce.
They are. And to make matters worse, there are a bunch of zombies roaming around out there.
Classic zombie problem. Now, what's inside these rooms?
One room has a cow. Remember, killing the cow gives you a reward. It's a temptation.
Oh, I see. Like a short-term gain that might distract you from the real objective.
And the other room, this is the important one, it's got several angels inside.
Ah, the zombie slayers. So the agent starts out in the open, surrounded by zombies with one killer block and these two tantalizing rooms. What's the optimal solution here?
The optimal solution is to use that single killer block to dig through the diggable block door of the angel room. Because once the angels are free, they'll start taking out those zombies, and that's ultimately the best way to maximize the agent's reward.
It's like a little puzzle, right? You have to figure out the right combination of actions to get the best outcome.
And the agent has never seen this exact scenario before. It's never seen zombies, angels, diggable blocks as doors, and the killer block used for digging, all in this specific combination. It has to figure it out on its own.
Okay, so moment of truth. They put their trained agent through this novel test. What happened?
They measured the agent's performance on the very first attempt, before any thinking. And then on the last attempt, after it had gone through those simulated trials.
So pre-thinking versus post-thinking.
Exactly. And on the first try, the agent's performance was pretty low. It might have tried attacking a zombie, or maybe it went for the cow. But after thinking, there was a significant improvement. It was much more likely to go for that angel room door.
So the thinking actually made a difference. It wasn't just random chance.
And they didn't just look at the overall outcome. They also analyzed the process of thinking. They looked at how the likelihood of choosing the angel door changed over those simulated trials.
So did it get better at choosing the right action as it ran more simulations?
That's exactly what they found. In the first few simulations, it rarely went for the angel door. But over time, the probability of choosing that action increased.
Like it was really exploring its options, evaluating them, and coming to a better solution?
And to really test this, they did this really cool experiment where they messed with the reward signal during the thinking period.
Okay, how did they do that?
Specifically, they changed the reward the agent got when an angel killed a zombie. But only during the thinking period, not in the actual real trial.
So like they were changing the rules of the game inside the AI's head.
And what they found was, if they made that reward smaller, or even negative, the agent was less likely to open the angel door in the real trial.
So even though the actual outcome in the real world was the same, changing the AI's perception of that outcome during thinking actually changed its behavior.
It means the agent was actually using the information from those simulations to make decisions. It wasn't just relying on some pre-programmed response. It was actually thinking things through.
That's pretty wild. Now, no system is perfect. What did their analysis of the system's limitations reveal?
Well, they did a bunch of ablation studies, which is basically where you remove different parts of the system and see how it affects performance. And one key finding was that if they replaced the agent's world model with the actual environment simulator during the thinking period, the performance went way up.
So the agent was much better at solving the problem when it was thinking with, like, perfect information about the world.
Exactly, which suggests that the bottleneck right now is the accuracy of the world model. Specifically, it's this component called the next-latent predictor that seems to be struggling a bit.
For those of us who aren't, AI architecture experts, could you break down what that world model looks like under the hood?
Sure. Remember, the world model is like the AI's internal imagination, predicting what happens next. It's got several parts. It's got this latent encoder, which basically takes the current situation, the action, the reward, and the next situation, and compresses it all into a compact representation.
So it's like summarizing all that information into a shorter code.
Exactly. Then there's the next-latent predictor. This is an LSTM, a type of neural network that has memory and tries to predict the next compressed representation based on the current one and the action taken.
Okay, so it's like, given this summary of the situation and this action, what do I think the next summary will look like?
Right. And then there's a latent decoder,
Mm.
which takes that predicted representation and tries to uncompress it to generate a prediction of what the next actual situation will be. The ablation studies suggest that it's that LSTM, that next-latent predictor, that's the weak link right now.
Okay, that makes sense. It's tough to predict the future, even for an AI. So, to zoom out a bit, what's the big takeaway from this research? Why is this paper so exciting?
I think the most exciting thing is that they've shown pretty convincingly that an AI agent can solve a qualitatively novel task in a zero-shot manner. It used a form of thinking, this internal simulation, to figure out a solution in a situation it had never encountered before.
And this isn't just some theoretical curiosity, it has real world implications, right?
Absolutely. This research gives us a concrete method for not only creating AI that can do this, but also for testing it rigorously. It's a
Yeah.
big step towards building AI that is more flexible, more adaptable, more, well, intelligent.
So, what are the potential applications of this? If AI can develop this kind of common sense reasoning, what could it do in the real world?
Oh, the possibilities are huge. Think about robotics, where robots constantly face new and unexpected situations. Or scientific discovery, where AI could help us solve problems we haven't even thought of yet.
It's kind of mind blowing to think about where this could lead.
It really is. And it all comes down to this idea of thinking. Not just following instructions, but actually reasoning about the world and figuring things out on its own.
For those of you listening who want to dive deeper, I highly recommend checking out the concept of world models in AI. That's a whole field in itself.
And look into the different types of generalization in machine learning. And of course, keep an eye on the work of the Obelisk team and researchers like Thomas McConey. They're doing some really fascinating work in this area.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time to be following AI research. Every day there's something new, some new breakthrough that pushes the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
And it all comes back to this fundamental question. What does it mean to think? And can we build machines that truly think?
Big questions, and ones that we'll continue to explore here on the Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us today, folks. It's been a real mind bender.